A war began over 20 years ago. A war between money and creativity. The gaming underworld betrayed its origins and was only interested in money. But one legendary gamer set himself the task of reminding the world of creativity and standing alone against the money-hungry powers of the underworld. His name was the Nostalgia. He was hurt by the gaming world, and so he made it his life's work to tell people about the good old days.
This is the Devil May Cry HD collection, and this was the first time I played Devil May Cry 1. The original was released in 2001 for the PS2, and it was originally developed as Resident Evil 4. But when they realized they are moving away from the Resident Evil formula, they decided to make a separate franchise out of it, and I'm super glad they did, because it resulted in a legendary game franchise and an even cooler genre. Devil May Cry 1 is considered the genre father of hack and slay or hack and slash. Call it whatever you like. Bayonetta, Dante's Inferno, and God of War are in the same genre. I mean the old God of War series. I love all of these games, and they are some of my favorites. But how good are the roots? That's what I want to look at in this video. I played the HD collection on the Xbox 360 for this video. And if you wait a bit on the start screen, you get to see a really cool trailer. It really gets you excited about the game and the music. So if you also like a bit rougher music, then you'll be very happy with the Devil May Cry series. Just listen to the trailer. Yes, maybe you have to be a little crazy to celebrate this genre, but I think the music just goes so extremely well with the gameplay. But it's not that extreme in the first game. I think it became more extreme in the third game. But let's start with the first one. When you start the game, you get told the story of the legendary hero Sparta. He defeated the underworld on his own and became the ruler of the human world, protecting it until his death. That's all we learn at first. Next we see Dante sitting in his store. He's the main character and also a demon hunter. Suddenly a woman crashes through his door with her motorcycle. She knows his identity and past, and then a baddest moment occurs. She impales Dante with a sword, and at first it looks that she can really hurt him. But then she throws her motorcycle at him, and then he gets serious for a second. He's such a cool guy. I think chatting about old video games every week is just as cool as fending off a motorcycle with guns. We're practically the same. The woman's name is Trish, and she reminds him of his mother. She needs his help. Mundus, the ruler of the underworld, wants to open the portal between the worlds, on Mallet Island. This is where our journey finally begins. There is an abandoned castle on Mallet Island. The whole game takes place in this castle. The parallels to Resident Evil slowly become apparent. The dark atmosphere, the music that could be from a horror movie, and the first room is a stairwell. We also know this from Resident Evil 1. There it wasn't a castle, but still a once magnificent place. Devil May Cry also relies on fixed camera angles, just like the classic Resident Evil games. It's not quite as bad here though, as the camera moves with you. You just have no control over it, and I think that would be about my only relevant criticism about the game. I find the camera a bit annoying at times, but never unplayable. There's another good example later on. Why hello there. Are you the roofers? It's raining into my house.
Let's go! Ha!
Wow, you guys go straight to work. The first room in the castle serves as a small tutorial for the controls. Here the player can move around free from danger. But just a few seconds later there is finally some action. There's another small horror element here, reminiscent of Resident Evil. Here we take a key from a large puppet and suddenly it comes to life. These are our first standard enemies. I also find the switch from horror music to an action-packed soundtrack very cool. These puppets are not particularly difficult to fight, but they are perfect for trying out the combat system for the first time. I myself am a big fan of the Devil May Cry series, but I'm not very good at doing combos. Especially here in the first game, it's a bit more difficult than in the sequels. The combat system is still quite simple here. There's a button for melee attacks and a button to shoot your firearms. To do this, you have to lock on onto an opponent. You can also perform a dodge roll while locking on. To perform combos, you have to vary the rhythm of the attack button. You can also use your firearms, especially the pistols Ebony and Ivory, to keep opponents in the air. It doesn't sound that complicated at first, but once you've mastered this combat system, it looks super stylish. Unfortunately, I'm too bad for that. But I can recommend you watch some good players. It looks really cool. During the game you will also find new weapons for Dante. The first weapon you find is Alistair, a sword that you have to earn. This scene seems cool at first, but it shows again how powerful Dante actually is and how many dangers there are in this castle. A normal human wouldn't be able to use Alistair, but Dante as a half-demon is practically invincible.
Oh my god! That's disgusting! But hey, really cool sword! Whoa, chill, I swear I didn't mean to steal it.
Dante is even so powerful that his arm is cut off and can still move. I assume this picture settings looked like this on the PS2, and so you didn't actually see it, but they must overlooked it in the HD remake. I thought it was quite funny. Anyhow, we already have probably the most used weapon in the game, at least for my part. I can say that I've only used Alistair from here on, except at the very end. Shortly afterwards, we also find a new firearm, the shotgun. I have to admit, as cool as the pistols are, I only use the shotgun for the time being. It's a shame, because how cool is Dante with his 2 pistols and his sword on the back. But the shotgun does a lot of damage at this stage of the game. At the end of the second mission, we get to fight a few ghosts and try out our new weapons. From now on, we can also use our devil trigger, which is not really addressed here. Dante can transform into a demon for a short time, and this become even stronger and regenerate some HP. The devil trigger manifests itself differently with each weapon. With Alistair, Dante becomes significantly faster and stronger, and can do a lot of damage in a short time. At my age, it feels exactly the opposite. I'm getting slower and weaker. From now on, we work from mission to mission. The game calls the individual levels missions. This is actually correct, as you can move around the castle relatively freely, regardless of the level. But you never really get lost. It's always clear what you have to do. In this mission, we are confronted with one of the game's few weaknesses: platforming. There are a few moments in the game where you have to do a little bit of platforming, but it's limited. It doesn't really feel that good. Precise jumps can sometimes be problematic, but once we've managed that, there's the first boss fight. And it's a huge scorpion-spider hybrid. Sometimes it unpacks its tail and is then a scorpion. Otherwise, he looks like a spider. But Dante is far too cool again in this cutscene. He doesn't take the creature seriously at all. That's what I love about Dante. He's super self-confident, but not arrogant. That makes him one of the coolest video game characters there is. Unfortunately, Dante is controlled by me, so I got punched in the nose on the first attempt. I think the boss fights are quite well done, especially for being the first game. If you manage to dodge the attack and use your devil trigger cleverly, the boss fight isn't that difficult. For me, it worked on the second attempt. Once we manage to get to the next level, there's another essential gameplay element. During the fights, and sometimes just scattered around the world, you collect red orbs. God of War, for example, has also copied these. Their purpose is to allow you to improve Dante, learn new things for your weapons, or simply buy items. They are basically currency and XP in one. I occasionally bought the green star from the items. It's really helpful for difficult bosses, because it completely recharges Dante's HP. Otherwise, I concentrated completely on the devil trigger and HP. Winning a boss fight with a devil trigger can be really relieving. I would be interested to know how many people watch my videos while they are relieving themselves. The purple star and the yellow ball are not bad either. The purple star fully charges the devil trigger and the yellow one is basically a continue. I also find that a bit annoying. I've always made sure that I don't use up too many and prefer to reload in an emergency. In the next level, we want to continue and suddenly Spidey McSpiderface appears again and chases us through a narrow corridor. I did what I would do in this situation in real life. I ran for my life, and you would do the same. You can also fight, but why? Running away worked as well. Now we also meet a new type of opponent, these shadows. I think they're by far the most annoying enemy type. I really struggled against them. Fortunately, they rarely appear, but they really test my reflexes. You can work on the shadow with ranged attacks for quite a while until an orb appears, and then you smash it with your sword. But you have to repeat this several times. The music is also totally crazy at this point. The game really understands how to wake up emotions in the player. At this point I realized that the game doesn't deliver that much story, but you still lose yourself completely. The game manages to captivate the player with its insane atmosphere.
Oh, hello Dante. Or as anyone else calls you, Dante. You think you're cooler than me, huh? Follow me into my yard. I'll show you a real rabbit.
This cool guy here doesn't say a single word, and yet you understand what's going on. This guy is just super epic. That's Nilo Angelo, or Virgil, as he's later known, Dante's brother. We fight him several times in the game. I remember the first time I played the game, he was the one I had the hardest time with. That wasn't the case this time. I actually think he's stronger than the spider, but I managed to beat him the first time, even if it was really close. This boss fight is also really well done. They constantly manage to challenge you, but I think it's always within a good range. Only the cutscene afterwards is a little bit silly. Here Dante gets really beaten up and then he gets a plot armor. His amulet hangs out and the guy just takes off. They probably wanted to briefly show here that Dante's amulet plays an important role, but I didn't think it was the best solution. But it's not too much of an annoyance. Next, we're in the castle sewers, and this is a good example of the sometimes poor camera. It's a small area here anyway, and the enemy can fly. You simply don't see him very often. The camera is really annoying here. Fortunately, this happens very rarely, and this was a prime example, and not a permanent condition.
In contrast to the urge to urinate at the morning, even though you could sleep. This is a permanent condition I hate.
Now we get to fight the spider again. I actually found it easier this time than in the first fight, although you have no cover here. But now I had an improved devil trigger, so I could activate it for a longer time. In a cutscene, Dante mentions that he is the son of the legendary warrior Sparta. The spider has supposedly not yet realized that Dante is not a normal human. I think that's unrealistic, but well, let's move on. Shortly afterwards, we find what I think is the best firearm in the game, the grenade launcher. It does really good damage, and from this point on I only used it for ranged combat. There was one last melee weapon to find, Ifrit, which are flaming gloves that enable fire attacks. As so often, the description is a lie. It says Ifrit is one glove, but there are obviously two. Okay, maybe you can't read it because it's in German, but it says it's one glove.
When will the lies in my life stop?
I didn't like this weapon too much. The gloves do more damage with every blow than my sword, but they are slower. But I prefer the higher speed. We get to try out our weapon directly on the next boss enemy. It's a giant bird. This is the only boss fight that I didn't like too much. He's just constantly flying around, and that makes all 3 fights against him really annoying. In contrast to the other battles, it's a bit lengthy, but the fight isn't difficult. The game always offers little scary moments like this. A new type of doll is established here, and they do it really cool in a small garden in the fog. I've mentioned it a few times now, but they just knew how to create atmosphere back then. In terms of gameplay, it's a bit more repetitive now. You fight your way from area to area and complete mission after mission. It may be repetitive, but it's not boring. At some point you arrive at a water level. I don't know what it is, but water levels are often just annoying and boring. Here it's thankfully kept short, but it really feels like a blatant foreign object. How could they think this is a good idea? You're suddenly in the first person and shooting some lizard creatures with a harpoon. This doesn't make any sense in relation to the rest of the game. After all, the passage is really very short. You can complete one of the missions in just a few seconds.
Yes, I mean that seriously. One of the missions is less than a minute long.
Shortly afterwards, you are on the deck of the ship and you get to fight the bird again. Let's get on with it. I think it's very cool that the daytime changes over the course of the adventure. We arrived during the day, spent the evening and the night in the castle until it's daytime again at the end. Due to the short length of the game, it's actually quite realistic in terms of time. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but you could really experience the course of the day during this time. We fight the bird one last time in a large arena and defeat it once and for all. You fight as before, but at some point it stays in the air permanently and shoots lightning bolts at you as soon as you get closer. If you survive this phase, he gets on the ground and you can give him a good beating. If you defeat him, Mundus will punish him, because Mundus does not accept failure. This cutscene shows once again that Dante is not a heartless show-off. This punishment has even affected him. Scenes like this simply show that Dante wants to hide his real emotions with his cool attitude and make him more than just a badass who can do anything.
For me, it's the other way around. I hide a badass behind my nerdiness. At least that's what I tell myself.
Now that Dante is even angrier, it's time to find a way into the underworld to defeat Mundus. But before that, we grab the last ranged weapon, Nightmare Beta. This weapon is interesting because its shots ricochet off walls and it also does a lot of damage, but it drains our devil trigger energy in this process, and I find that this is such a disadvantage that I've never used the weapon. I've stuck with my grenade launcher. I think experienced players can certainly do something with the weapon. Funnily enough, the next boss is a giant form of the weapon. We have Nightmare Beta as a weapon, so is this Nightmare Alpha, or rather Gamma? Anyway, I personally find this boss is one of the easier ones. He first appears as a slime that can absorb you. If he absorbs you, you fight in kind of an underworld against skulls and then a weaker form of the previous bosses. If you survive this, Nightmare suffers heavy damage. Then you have to activate switches on the walls to lure him out of the slime. He will then spam attacks until a glowing ball will appear from time to time. This is exactly what we have to hit to damage him. You also fight him 3 or 4 times in the game. This is actually a thing in the devilmaycry games, that you fight every boss several times. After the fight I noticed that there are secret missions, and I didn't complete any of them. I started one by mistake, but then I didn't really get it. If you are a completionist, this is probably interesting for you. For someone like me, they are just a nice to have. But now we finally want to go to the underworld.
No, the underworld is not my man cave.
To open the gate to the underworld, we have to fight Dante's brother Virgil again. I found this fight by far the hardest. Virgil deals really good damage when he catches you, and he can also take a lot of damage. You have to learn to dodge his ranged and melee attacks. This boss fight really has it all. I think it's the best boss fight in the whole game. If we have his amulet, we can open the gate to the underworld.
Trish, Virgil has been defeated. You know what you must do. Now go.
Yes, Master.
Wait a minute, you follow Mondays? I only follow Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays.
With both amulets combined, we also get the legendary Sword of Sparta. But to be honest, this is a bit of a disappointment. We cannot activate the Devil Trigger with this sword. The sword is supposed to do a lot of damage, but it wasn't for me. I rely too much on the Devil Trigger. But I've read that good players use this sword. Is this true? I don't know. Ask a good player. But now, let's skip a bit of the game and go straight to the underworld. The underworld is really grotesque. You have the feeling that you are moving around in a living organism. Everything looks almost bloody. The doors look like heart valves and pulsate accordingly. What fits in with my assumption of a living organism is a huge heart that is supposed to beat again. But before that, there is another room where we fight 2 lizards. Here was another moment where the camera is positioned a bit annoyingly. But apart from that, the underworld is relatively small. Here we fight Nightmare one last time, and Dante also finds out that Trish works for Mundus. This makes him a little bit angry.
Now get out of my sight. The next time we meet, it won't be like this.
Dante!
Don't come any closer, you devil! You may look like my mother, but you're nowhere close to her. You have no soul. You have the face, but you'll never have her fire!
Dante has the characteristic that he immediately becomes serious as soon as it comes to his mother. And that becomes very clear here. He always stays cool, but as soon as it comes to this topic, he can't take a joke anymore, and Trish was created in the image of his mother by Mundus. With this anger in us, we get the heart beating and open the final door to Mundus. He's just huge. Mundus also tries to provoke Dante once more by holding Trish captive. After Mundus launches an attack on Dante, Trish sacrifices herself to save him. She seems to have died in the process, but Dante still seems to care about her. Now Mundus shows us his true form, which is basically the statue but with a huge hole in the chest. But now Dante can take any more fun and the fight against Mundus begins. Dante takes on his demon form, which I think looks very cool, but the fight itself is kind of weird. The gameplay switches from devilmaycry to Star Fox. To damage Mundus now, we have to fire glowing Japanese signs at him to charge our devil trigger, and then we can transform into a dragon and damage him.
I understand as much as you do.
But this fight is only the first form. The fight continues on the ground, where Dante returns to his human form, but now we also have the devil trigger at our disposal with Sparta's sword, and it feels super powerful with this sword. During the fight I also realized that I have an item that prevents you from taking damage for a certain amount of time. I forgot about that the whole game. But accordingly, the fight was easier than the one against Virgil. Mundus takes a lava bath here and we platform over to him and hit him with all we're worth. It feels very epic. I like the second phase more than the first. Mundus seems to be finally defeated and we see a cutscene that is often ridiculed and is already considered a meme. To be honest, I don't understand what's so funny about it. Dante has Trish in his arms and gets very emotional.
I should have saved you. I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
I don't know what's supposed to be so funny. Sure, it's very cheesy and his voice sounds a bit funny while he's saying it, plus the dramatic echo. But honestly, I don't understand why this is a meme. I've seen much worse. If you fully immerse yourself in the game, you actually find this part really sad. But maybe that's just my opinion. Mallet Islet is now destroying itself and we have to try to escape in time. So we go through the castle again and back to where we came from. But suddenly the ground collapses beneath us and Mundus appears once more.
I wonder if Mundus hates Mondays.
Yes, there's one ridiculously easy fight against Mundus. I mean, look at that. That's it. But now Trish appears again and gives us her power so we can give Mundus the final blow. We have to charge up our devil trigger again and hit Mundus one last time with ebony and ivory.
Jackpot!
Dante was allowed to be cool once more and now they have to leave. But before that, there's another emotional moment between Trish and Dante, where she starts to cry and Dante recognizes the human in her. Because
Devils never cry.
By the way, I can recommend you listen to the song Devils Never Cry. It's from the third game, but it's a really damn good song. Conveniently, the ceiling above them collapses and a fully functional airplane appears. Now the two of them can escape from the island in a final Star Fox sequence. Trish now joins Dante and the two of them go demon hunting together from now on.
And that's it for Devil May Cry 1. I love the whole series and the first game is no exception. The game still plays wonderfully today. The story is perhaps a little bit cheesy at times, but they had to work with the technical limitations of that time. It also has that melodramatic style that you often see in Japanese media. The battles are good, the atmosphere is even better, and the weaknesses are too irrelevant to spoil the fun. I'm still a big fan. If one playthrough is not enough for you, there are different difficulty levels to choose from. But for me, the first playthrough was enough. But if you manage to beat it on higher difficulties, you get some extras. For example, you can get the legendary warrior Sparta or Super Dante, who has an unlimited devil trigger. If you play through it once, like I did, it will take you about 6 to 8 hours. I already knew the game, so it took me about 5.5 hours. So it's a very short game. But what do you think about the Devil May Cry series? Have you played it and which game is your favorite? Write it down in the comments below. Thanks to everyone who watched until this point. If you liked the video, give a thumbs up and if you want to see more, subscribe. Till next time.